I'm going to tell you guys a secret. Water isn't as hydrating as you think. I'll tell you how you know. Because let's do an activity. Go train, sweat, and then taste your sweat and tell me what it tastes like. I bet you it doesn't taste like tap water. What does it taste like to you? Salty? That's because the fluids in your body contain electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and what we're trying to do is rehydrate with tap water, which doesn't have any of those electrolytes in it. So, therefore, one of the best things that you can do when you rehydrate is, well, what I normally do is salt. I'll tell you what I normally do is this stuff here, just salt, because it's sodium, right? I mean, yeah. That's the biggest thing that we need to be replenishing. Your sweat tastes salty, so it's like, you know, you don't replenish body fluids with tap water, you replenish it with transparent labs, electrolytes. That's what your sweat should taste like. No, it doesn't taste like that either. But anyway, so this is much more rehydrating than just more tap water. So that's my favorite pre-workout. Actually, more than caffeine, more than all the stimulants and all that stuff is proper hydration. So that's what we're doing today, is we're in a rush. We're in a really big rush because I've got my seminar, my mentorship. And before I started my mentorship, I had to get a whole bunch of other work done, and I've only got like 45 minutes to get a training session in. So what are we gonna do? 45 minutes, is that long enough to get a training session in? Well, it depends. It's not long enough to have a proper strength session, but what I'm gonna do is teach you guys the rules according to science and how you can still get effective training in for muscle growth and strength building if you are short on time. And I'm gonna give you some of the science to back it up. So I'm still gonna have a session, I'm not gonna go as heavy. The main reason I'm not gonna go as heavy is because heavy training takes me a long time to warm up to my top sets. So you know that I train for strength, right? So the rules for strength are, you kind of need to be lifting heavy to get stronger. How heavy? Well, 80% and plus is where all the kind of research says has the best carryover to strength, but that doesn't mean that lighter doesn't carry over. Indirectly. See, the larger your muscles, the greater your strength potential, right? So people say, are bodybuilders strong? Some people say they are. Some people say they aren't. I tell you, they absolutely are. They just don't practice the skill of strength as frequently as strength athletes. Some of them do, like Ronnie Coleman is incredibly strong. And every now and then he would test heavy singles and heavy doubles. And that wasn't really the biggest contributor to his why he was as muscular as what he is. The biggest contributor was the amount of work that he did, as well as genetics, as well as special sauce. What I'm going to be doing today isn't a typical strength session. It's a session on the fly, but I guess the stimulus today is muscle growth or hypertrophy. So what are the rules with strength versus hypertrophy? Well, when it comes to percentage of max and how heavy you should be training, as I said, strength is 80% and plus, or in other words, kind of like 1 to 6 rep range. But muscle hypertrophy, which means building muscle, is a lot more flexible. So you don't need to be doing any particular percentage. So according to the research, you can do anywhere between 5 to 30 reps and still achieve meaningful progress with your muscle mass, like equal muscle gain, regardless of the rep range, as long as you take the sets to the same proximity to failure, so as close to failure as possible, like even up to failure. But training to failure comes at a cost. And that cost of training to failure is pretty much fatigue. That's the biggest one. A lot of people say, if you train to failure, you risk injury and all these things. Well, kind of, but also kind of not. You've got to be lifting heavy enough to kind of injure yourself. And it depends on the exercise. Taking bicep curls to failure, that's not really going to injure you. Lat pull downs to failure, not really going to injure you. big squats and deadlifts when you're really strong, taking those things to failure, yeah, that increases the risk of injury, sure. But the idea of training to failure is the closer to failure you get, the more mechanical tension you are creating on your muscle, which is the main mechanism of building muscle hypertrophy, is mechanical tension. And the way that you achieve that is take it close to failure. How close? Kind of all of the best researchers in the space kind of say anywhere between 0 to 3 reps in reserve is optimal. You can still achieve mechanical tension with 4 reps and 5 reps and more in reserve, just not as much. So the guidelines for building muscle is kind of like 0 to 2 to 3 reps in reserve is where you should be living. That's how hard you should be training, which is actually pretty hard. It sounds like 3 reps in reserve, that's really, really easy. Well, not really. You still need to push pretty damn hard. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. So the focus of today, I'm not going to be doing, my goal is actually 140 kilograms for high reps. Not because it's percentages or anything like that, because I know that 140 is pretty easy for me to warm up to. That's like 6 warm-up sets and I'm there. Or less. So I go 60, 80, 100, 120, and then we're on to 140. So that's pretty quick to warm up to. I'm not timing my rest sets in between. I'm just kind of going back, forth, however long it takes me to load the plates. I'll have a little bit longer rest on my last warm-up set. So this is 100. Nice and easy. It's winter here in Sydney, Australia, so it's kind of cold, so we have the heater on to get started, which is nice, but then we get warm enough. So this is called opposing muscle group supersets, or non-overlapping muscle supersets, or agonist antagonist superset. I don't mind what you call it, as long as you're doing the same thing. Now, the beauty of this is it allows me to get twice the amount of work in the same amount of time. Push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. So instead of doing your big, heavy bench press set and waiting however many minutes you take to rest, I take about 8 minutes. Most people take about 4 to 5 minutes. Instead of just sitting there 4 to 5 minutes, sit there for 2 minutes, do a set of pull, come back 2 minutes later and come back to your push again. One more warm-up set, and then we're ready. So get this, right? So what percentage of my max am I going to be working at? Well, my current max that I tested most recently was 210 kilograms. So what is 140 kilograms of 210? It's less than 70% of my max. It's 60 something, whatever that is. High 60s. So that's gonna really, according to the research, you need 80% and plus for strength. But I'll tell you right now, this does still carry over to some strength, because the objective of this is building muscle. And the more muscle you build, the greater your potential for strength gain. So if all you do is strength reps for your whole life, you're missing out on some of the other physical qualities that you can attain through the light rep range work. So, the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking at is look at the best bodybuilders in the world. How do they train? And I know there's examples of bodybuilders that lift really, really heavy and low reps and they get huge, like Dorian Yates, Mike Metzner, and all those guys who just train as hard as they can with very low volume. But don't use those guys as an example of that's how it's done. Those guys are kind of like the outliers. They are genetic freaks. And yes, it is possible to build strength and muscle from so many different styles of training that also work differently to each other. But most commonly, the rep ranges that people use to build the most amount of muscle at the highest level is always kind of in between like 6 to 15 reps. So no matter what the research says, which says 5 to 30 reps is all equivalent, look at how the best are doing it. And they're pretty much 6 to 15 reps across the board. One more warm-up set. Musti, I'm going to get you to unrack for me, please, if that's okay with you. Thank you. Last warm up, and then we're on 140. And all I'm gonna do today is bench probably. Well, bench and lat pull down, bench, lat pull down, bench, lat pull down. I'll go to maybe 2 sets, because I've got to be quick. 2 high rep sets. I reckon 2 sets of 15. 2 sets of 15 here. Of course, I'm gonna superset that with my lat pull downs. The idea is to take them close to fail. And I'll tell you now, it's not a lot of sets. But you saw how quick that session was. Well, that's me already warm. And now, I'm gonna probably rest about 10 minutes between these sets as well. I'm gonna pump it out as hard as I can. So 15 reps is gonna be really, really hard. So how many minutes rest should you have between sets? Well, a lot of the times with hypertrophy, people say, 2 to 3 minutes rest. That's not how I do it. I can't do a high rep set of this, even though it's hypertrophy stimulus, and rest only 2 to 3 minutes. That is absolutely not a full recovery for me. So for me, whenever I'm training hypertrophy, I still take long rest before sets. I'm gonna do one more set of lat pull down. Okay, so now my warm-ups are done. I'm going to give myself about 2 minutes, maybe 3. That answers that question. I thought that was going to be hard. Oh man, good one. 15 reps on 140 is like, of course I should be there. I should be able to do more. But I still come in thinking, oh, it's hard. But how many reps in reserve did I have there? Maybe, like, the most I've done on that recently is about 17 reps. I think what happens is when I do my high rep sets like that, it's just like smack it, then all of a sudden it just goes poof, like hits a brick wall. But definitely had more than 17. I could have easily done more than 2 more. 20, I don't know. I've done 20 before when I was bigger and fatter and stronger, but now I'm only a skinny guy. Man, let's have a look. That was a good unrack, Musti. Hey, see this professional? Musti. That was very comfortable. You know why it was comfortable? You know the only reason why it was easy? Because of the unrack. I wouldn't have got it otherwise. That's the power of having a good training partner, I would have failed.
Too many good words for me, bro.
Yeah, it's all good. You deserve it, bro. Just one more, because I don't really have much time. So I'm gonna do lat pull downs now. I've got to create a presentation for this afternoon. I'm doing a presentation all week. So this is my mentorship, where I've got a week-long semi-private mentorship with a bunch of personal trainers and strength coaches and all that stuff. And we do Monday to Friday from 10 till 4, and it's just intensive. It's 50% of the work is just theory on program design and all things coaching, and the other 50% on lifting. So today we're going to be doing deadlifts. But anyway, so that's going to start in about an hour. Now, when I finish that, I've got to do another presentation for my mentorship group. So it's just non-stop. So before this, I came in and I did a bunch of coaching, straight into my training session. And then when I finish this, I'm going to have a quick feed and do some more coaching. And then I'm going to do the education for mentorship. But anyway, I'm going to be very happy about doing 2 sets of 15 reps of 140 where I smoked it. And I'll tell you now, I think it's an effective session. So the last few weeks, I wasn't doing any of this style of benching. All I was doing was the spotto pressing to give myself a bit of a break from heavy lifting, which is another real great benefit from understanding the research on percentages and how heavy you should be training and all of this stuff. So get this, right? So 5 to 30 reps for hypertrophy, right? So that's research paper by Dr. Brad Schoenfeld. It was a meta-analysis, which means a study of studies where they found that didn't matter what rep range you were choosing, anywhere between 5 to 30 reps, all the way up to 30, produced an equal amount of muscle hypertrophy, as long as you're taking the set to the same proximity to failure, which means as close to failure as possible on all of those rep ranges, they produce the same amount of hypertrophy. So this defied even what he believed. What most people used to say is, you know, hypertrophy rep range is kind of like 8 to 12 or whatever it is, and anything more than 15 is kind of cardio. But he proved himself wrong, which is, you know, it's humbling when you hear the best researchers in the world. Like, if he's wrong, he'll say he is. And yeah, so that's what that research tells us. Now, a lot of people sit there and say, that's wrong because 30 reps isn't the optimal rep range of hypertrophy. No, it's not. That's not what he's saying. He's just saying that set by set, you can produce the same amount of hypertrophy. Now, here's the thing. That doesn't mean go and do sets of 30 on your program. Unless, of course, there are instances where you need to. So for example, like this, okay, so that's sets of 15. But that's my favorite way of doing high rep sets, is if I don't have a long time to train. When I'm doing high reps, it's a lot lighter weight, and I don't have to take as long to warm up to that type of weight. If I was to work to 200 kilograms for my bench press, I'd probably have to do, well, 140, 160, 180, 200. So a few more warm-up sets, which I start waiting, you know, 8 minutes in between those sets. So that's 3 more sets. That's another 20 or so minutes just to warm up. And then the next reason why, so if you're short on time, high rep sets, you can still achieve great muscle hypertrophy. The next thing is when you go heavy all the time, I'll tell you right now, that's kind of what I do a lot, is go heavy all the time. Your joints and tendons and your body just starts to hurt after a while. Right, so that's another great reason for doing high rep work. There's some people out there that say, high reps are just dumb, what a waste of time. You don't need to do high reps. You can just lift heavy all the time and do low reps. You know, I love the sentiment because I'm very strength biased as well, and I love lifting heavy weights, and I'll favor lifting heavy weights. But I will tell you firsthand, I'm 43 years old, and I've never had any major injuries. I've had minor tears here and there, but everything I've been able to recover from, you know, touch wood. I'll tell you now, when you lift heavy for too long, your body just hurts. After a big heavy squat session, like for the next day, getting out of bed, it's just like, oh, you know, my knees and my back, it's just like, you know, I don't want to do that all the time. And then when I have these high rep lightweight sets or sessions, the next day I feel great, I feel fine. So having a phase here and there of the high rep work still contributes to muscle hypertrophy. It still contributes indirectly to strength building, but it unloads your body and just gives you a damn break, which is my favorite part, especially for now. Anyhow, I'm gonna get my head on and I'm gonna do one more set in a couple more minutes. I held my breath. I held my breath for the whole set, that one. Oof. Oof. Nice work. Nice work, man. 2 sets of 15. Nice party pump. Did I do lat pull downs in between? I didn't even. I just sat here while I go quickly pump out a few sets. Ooh, give me a minute. Give me a minute before my next set. You know, it's superset, but it doesn't mean you just go bang, bang. I'm gonna give myself a couple of minutes and I'll do 2 quick sets of lat pull down now. If I'm being honest, I'm not gonna rest. the same amount of time. I'll do a set, and I'll wait 5 minutes, and then I'll do another set, and then I'm done.
Some people ask you if you hold your breath for like more than 8 reps, that should be an answer.
Yeah, that's an answer for you. I always talk about holding your breath for the whole set. Of course, it comes with risks. You know, if you've got some type of a heart condition or something like that, don't do that. But breath hold with all heavy lifting is kind of just like a natural reflex. So it's pretty normal, but holding your breath for multiple sets, multiple reps, this is the only one that I do that for. I don't do it for squats or deadlifts. You'll probably pass out that way. But here I can't pass out because I'm laying down. A lot of the times when you pass out, the best thing to do is lay on the floor. Blood goes back to your head and you stand back up. So if one of your friends wants to faint, don't be a good friend and hold them up. You're doing the worst thing for them. They want to be laying down, and that's how they're going to wake back up. So I'm already laying down in a bench press, so I've never passed out doing that. But the reason why I hold my breath for that set is because of the position that I'm in. So check out this arch. So everything's connected. So I've got my feet back and heels down. That's called hip joint extension, which initiates the arch. I arch as hard as I can, which helps hold my shoulder blades back and down. Now, the next thing that is paired with that is breath hold. So inhalation, exhalation is the opposite to that. When I exhale, my ribs drop. When my ribs drop, my upper back goes into, well, less extension, so flexion. And when I flex my upper back or round my upper back, my shoulder blades come forward. So every time you exhale, it makes it just a little bit more difficult to maintain that position. Now, the next topic of that position, some people say you shouldn't be sticking your shoulder blades. They're designed to move, like that's how human bodies move. When we move our arm, the shoulder blade comes with it. Yeah, but the bench press, the way that I'm doing it is a shorter range of motion. Shoulders back, I'm not throwing a ball, I'm not pushing out this way. I'm pushing out this way. It's a partial range of motion. That's my competition style bench press. And when I do that, my shoulder blades don't need to move that much. If they do, they will. But the more they move, the more your shoulder blades protract, the harder it is because you're laying on a bench to get them into retraction, which is exactly where they need to be when you bring that barbell down to your chest. Your shoulder blades need to be back. And if they're not, a lot of the times that's where people injure their shoulders or they tear their pecs because they're kind of out of position, and laying on that board is dysfunctional. So when I say laying on that board, that bench that's restricting your shoulder blades from moving freely. Okay, lat pull downs. So I did a set. Hey, you know what I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you a quick tip for how I get my bench press position. So check out my back. So this position here, that's shoulder blades back and down. That is the position that I want to be in when I bench press. Okay, so when people think, I don't know what that position is, think of a lat pull down. So imagine you're doing a lat pull down. So it's not out in front here. You're pulling your shoulder blades back and down to bring the bar to your chest. Shoulder blades back and down, arching your upper back. That's the bottom position for a lat pull down, and that's the position that I bench press in. And you should too, if you want a strong bench press. Anyway, I'm going to do a set. You don't need to see it. It's pretty boring. But thanks for the session. I hope you enjoyed that quick burst of information and that quick pump of the pecs, which the chicks love. Just kidding. They don't care. Shazza, ask her.
Absolutely don't care.
They don't care about your bench press. She's lying. They all care. That's all they care about is how big your bench press is. Anyway, guys, I hope you care. I'm sure you do, and I'll see you guys next time.